Okay, well, welcome everyone to another episode of Being Present with Leonard. And I'm going to assume that we have all our technical issues ironed out, sorted out, and everything is coming across smoothly and clearly. So I'm certainly hoping that that's the case. All right, so I have a number of questions to answer, but first, I think we need to attend to one thing. Today is Valentine's Day. So I'm going to speak a little bit about love, seeing that would be an appropriate topic for right now. Just give me one moment. Okay, so let's talk about love. First of all, there are different dimensions of who we are. And so what I have to say about love in one dimension might not be exactly the same as what I have to say about love in another dimension. Now, what are the dimensions that I'm referring to? I'm referring to, first of all, to the dimension which I call the dream, the story, the world of the mind, the past and future. And it's within the dream that we experience a kind of love. And that kind of love can often turn sour and turn into hatred. In fact, the proof is in the figures, because approximately 1 in 2 marriages end in divorce. Clearly, they started off loving each other. Otherwise, why would they get married? But what happened? What happened to the love? How can love turn into hate or resentment or anger or blame? How is that possible? And the answer is, it's very possible within the world of the mind, because it's a world of duality. So there's different forms of love within the dream, within the mind. I'm sure many of us, or most of us, if not all of us, can remember falling in love. And usually that's very intense. Obviously, I'm telling you something everybody knows. It can be very intense, very beautiful, very overwhelming, overpowering. You really fall in love. You're literally infatuated with someone. And then hopefully that kind of love, falling in love, transforms at some point into what I call growing in love. Because falling in love won't last. It will last for a period of time, and you can continue loving each other, but the feeling and the energy of it is different as time passes. So how do we grow in love? It's really incredibly simple. We're just kind to each other. We listen to each other. We care about each other. We're not putting ourselves first all the time. We're allowing the other person to be first, and to also be very, very equal in pretty much every way. So it's very possible to grow in love. And as you grow in love, it's much less likely that it'll finish up in divorce. But as I said, to grow in love requires kindness, being considerate, caring about your partner just as much, if not more, than you care about yourself. Committing to your partner, helping your partner to feel secure and safe. All of these things will lead to love growing, which, is a good outcome. So that's pretty much love within the dream, within the world of duality, within the world of time, within the past and future. And so many of our love relationships at this level are actually don't have anything to do with love. We're essentially using each other to fill those needs that were not met in childhood. My mother wasn't really here for me in the way I needed her to be, so I want my partner to be here in the way I need her to be. But really what I'm projecting is my unmet needs onto my partner, and that's going to create all sorts of chaos. As you project your mother and all the limitations of love coming from your mother, you're going to project onto your partner. So it's good to be aware of that, and I call that a dysfunctional kind of relationship. We should stay in those relationships until we learn our lesson, until we're willing to look into the mirror. That is the relationship. The relationship is a mirror that reflects to you what is unhealed within you. It reflects to you your limiting beliefs, your unfulfilled needs, your fears, and it will almost certainly trigger all the repressed feelings. So I actually encourage people to enter into dysfunctional relationship because it will accelerate your awakening as long as you're willing to look into the mirror and take full responsibility for whatever is arising within you. And you don't blame or point the finger at your partner. It's all arising within you. If you can manage that, then you'll go through an incredible healing. And if your partner doesn't change in line with the way you are changing and awakening and growing and learning your lessons by looking into the mirror, by taking responsibility for yourself, then if your partner doesn't do that, then leave the relationship. You don't have to stay in it, but don't leave before you've learned your lessons. Don't leave until you've looked fully into the mirror. But once you feel you have and you've learned whatever you can learn from this dysfunctional relationship, move on. There's someone waiting for you who is more in alignment with the level of consciousness that you're awakening to. So that's love at the level of mind, within the dream, within the story, within the world of duality. But then there's a whole nother dimension, which is the love that arises within you when you are truly present. And I can tell you it's a totally different kind of love. It's almost impossible to describe it, but it's an overwhelming, intoxicating, fulfilling kind of love. It just overwhelms you. You feel love for everything. You feel filled with love. You're very, everything you see, you love. You love the tree that you're looking at. You love the cow on the side of the road. You love the bird soaring across the sky. You see some people walking along the road. You can't help loving them as well. You are literally overflowing with love. And it's not like the love. It's really nothing like the love we experience within the story. The love within the story can be beautiful and lovely, all of that. But the love that arises as you open into oneness, as you open into the presence of God, as you open into the present moment, as you settle and come out of your dream, it's an entirely different kind of love. And it really has to be experienced. One thing I've noticed, I've watched a number of near-death experience videos on YouTube, and they describe the kind of love that I'm talking about, that I'm describing. It's very similar. Now, they had to die to experience that or leave the body to experience that. I just experienced it in pretty much all of my awakenings without exception. Every one of the awakenings, I've been completely and totally intoxicated with love and overwhelmed with this divine love. You can really only call it divine love. Now that brings me back to the other dimension, the world of the mind, the past and future, who we are as we're living our lives in a normal fashion. In my view, none of us are going to be truly fulfilled until we remember who we are, who we really are. And the truth is, when you remember who you really are, which means you've opened up into the truth of life, the truth of love, the truth of oneness, the truth of God. When you remember who you really are, you will know one thing. You will know that you are quite literally the energy of love. And you will not be fulfilled in your life until you recognize that and start expressing love. When we're lost in the dream, we spend most of our time looking for love or trying to prove that we're good enough or trying to find where we belong. All of that comes into play at that time. And we definitely lose ourselves in the process. If you're looking for love in your day-to-day life, it just means that there is a limiting belief that was programmed into your mind in childhood that you are not loved. And that limiting belief with the associated feelings, it gives you that feeling that you're not loved. So naturally, that's painful. So you spend most of your life looking for love or trying to prove you're good enough or trying to find where you belong or trying to escape your aloneness or trying to find someone who'll be here for you because your mother or father were not really here for you in the way you needed when you were a child. So there's so much we can learn about love. And we really need to open into love. Not only are you love as your true nature, you are literally love. You are also literally the energy of acceptance, in the sense that there's no judgment within you. Everything is what it is. You respond appropriately to what is. You respond from presence to what is. Everything is allowed to be what it is. There's no judgment, not even any opinion, not any concept. You're just here in the present moment, being present with what is here. So it's very important that we come to that realization that we are love. Not only are we love and acceptance, we're also compassion. We're also empowered from within, which simply means that we are empowered to be ourselves authentically, express ourselves as the unique individuals that we are, based in oneness, based in the one being. We are all wonderfully unique expressions of the one being. So, let me see. Okay. It looks like there's no complaints about the technical stuff. Okay. All right. So I have a few questions. I'm not going to answer them all because I want to keep this fairly brief. But let's start with Matthew from Green Bay in Wisconsin. Matthew writes, "Hi, Leonard. When talking about step 2, what do you mean when you say that there is nothing to fix?" Well, that's really a good question and a very important question. Why would I tell you when you recognize things within your mind, within the dream, within the story, when you recognize things arising, that you immediately, instantly feel you have to fix, you have to change, because no one will like you, no one will love you if they know this about you. So you spend most of your life trying to improve your dream, trying to fix yourself, fix whatever you determine needs to be fixed within the dream, within the mind, within your past and future. What needs to be fixed? And so many of us are involved in that. Almost everyone is involved in fixing themselves. Now, here's the problem, and here's why I say there's nothing to fix. If you try and fix anything about yourself within the dream, within the past and future world of the mind, within the story, within your past history or your future imagining, if you try and fix any of it, that implies judgment. Otherwise, why would you fix it? And the moment you judge anything within the dream about yourself or anything else within the dream, the moment you judge it and you try and fix it, you're declaring the dream to be real. That's the problem with fixing it. And the more you try and fix, the more you're affirming to the dream itself, oh yes, you're real. All these limiting beliefs, they're all true. All the judgments I have of myself and others, they're all true. It's all real, and therefore I have to fix it. Whereas the correct approach is to recognize that when you're not present, you're lost in a dream. You don't try and fix the dream. You bring the dream to consciousness. Who am I in the dream? What triggered me into the dream? What pulled me out of presence? What am I still holding on to within the dream? It's all a dream, so you don't fix it. It's a huge mistake to fix anything about yourself within the dream. You don't fix it. What you do is you reveal it all. And that takes time. Every time you notice something about yourself that's not in alignment with the truth of who you are in presence, you just own, acknowledge, confess. Wow, I just noticed judgment arising. Wow, I just noticed blame. I'm a real blamer. I'm very judgmental. Own it, acknowledge it, confess it, but don't believe in it. That's the key. So awakening is not about fixing anything. It's about revealing who you are in the dream, how you got lost in the dream, what you need to let go of to come out of the dream. Don't fix it, reveal it. There's nothing wrong with anyone other than the fact that we're all lost in a dream. What is the dream? Well, the dream is actually everything outside of this moment. That's the dream. Now, a lot of those moments outside of this moment are very benign and not a problem. But every now and then it becomes problematic as something from your childhood projects through and filters through and projects through onto the present moment, distorting your experience of life. Or the repressed feelings are triggered. Now you're no longer present, you're caught in the past. Maybe you're a child in an adult body when your feelings are repressed. That's most likely. So don't fix, reveal. Okay, so the next question is from Karen from Portland in Oregon. Karen writes, how do I heal an old emotional wound of feeling left out? Well, you know, it really follows on from the last question, Karen. The only way to really heal that old wound of feeling left out is to explore where that wound originates from. Where does it come from? What was it about your childhood? What was it about your mother and father or your very early school teachers? What was it about your experiences at school or within your family that created or led to the formation of the limiting belief, I'm left out, I'm not included, I'm not wanted, there must be something wrong with me, I'm not good enough. Otherwise, they wouldn't leave me out. So you've got to recognize where this comes from. It's not the truth. Nobody's leaving you out. But once that's programmed into your mind, I'm left out, I'm not wanted, I'm not good enough, I don't fit in, I don't belong. Once that's in there, that's going to color your perception of everything in your life. Even when people are so welcoming to you, they're saying, come in, come join us. You're going to be doubtful of that. You'll question their motivation or whatever, because that's not consistent with what's programmed into your dream. Life has to manifest to match your dream. So it's just as likely you'll actually draw to you people who do leave you out. It's just their nature. They leave everybody out. They're only thinking of themselves. That's also possible. Life has to match your dream. So if you have a dream that I'm not loved, if that's one of your limiting beliefs within the dream, which is actually the foundation of the dream, I'm not loved, you might attract people who don't know how to love. It proves that you're right, you're not loved. Or you might attract people who love you, but you can't let it in because the deeper limiting belief, I'm not loved, prevails. It's the same with I'm not wanted, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do it, or it's not okay to feel my feelings, or it's not okay to speak out and be myself. So it really comes down to, from presence, recognizing the limiting beliefs involved in whatever you're experiencing that is painful or difficult. Okay? And the answers are really quite obvious. Look back over your life. Even were you planned? Were you planned, or were you an accident when your parents conceived you, or when you were conceived in your mother's womb? Then when you're in the womb, was your mother busy? Was she overwhelmed? Was she anxious? Was she nervous? Did she have the feeling she was left out? Did you not feel welcomed in the environment of your mother's womb? That will contribute to that feeling, I'm left out. And then what were the first 4 years of your life like? What was it like when you came out of the womb? All these things you have to reflect upon and see if you can't connect the dots, the limiting belief with the feeling, the pattern that you're dealing with in your life now. The limiting belief from childhood programmed into the mind. Now it's affecting your experience of life now, and it doesn't have to, because none of it is true. I can guarantee you, if you ask a tree, am I left out by you? The tree will say no. If you ask God, God will just smile and say, of course not. So you got to just be aware of these limiting beliefs. None of them are true, but they can play havoc and make a real mess of our lives. Next question is from Angela from Melbourne in Australia. I'm going to answer this very briefly. Hello, Leonard. Is intuition important to stay in the present moment? What is intuition based on? How does one distinguish real intuition or mind judgment? Please shed some light about intuition. Thank you, Angela. Okay, well, intuition, when we're not awake, when we're not present, when we're basically living fundamentally within the mind, within the dream, which is okay. I'm not judging that or telling you you're doing, you're just lost in the dream. But intuition is very important in that situation, because intuition is like a communication from the awakened you, trying to get through the veils of illusion, trying to get through to you and reveal something to you that will be helpful for you to know. And so it will arise as an intuitive feeling, and if you trust it, it will be beneficial. So intuition plays quite a big role in when you're living within the world of the mind, within the dream. Even now, it's to some degree, intuition led you to view this video. There's something in you that gave you the sense, I need to watch this episode of Being Present with Leonard. So intuition plays many times into our lives. I have an intuition, a feeling that someone is not really meaning what they're saying, or I have the feeling, the sense, the intuition that, or whatever. So that's intuition. However, as you become present, you're opening up to an entirely different dimension within you. This is an awakened conscious dimension. So you don't really need intuition in the awakened state, because you have something else that's available to you, which is inner knowing. Ask and the answer will reveal itself to you if you ask in the right way. Or the communication will just come flowing through you in the form of revelation, even revelation after revelation after revelation. All of that is not only possible, but quite likely. You'll have all sorts of revelations about your own situation, how you got lost, what you need to let go of, etc., etc. But you'll also have incredible revelations about what's happened to the whole of humanity and how we all got lost, because the truth is we all did. And when Buddha visited planet Earth, it didn't make a huge difference. We're still all lost, most of us. When Jesus visited planet Earth, we got even more lost because we didn't understand the true nature of his teaching. We didn't understand the truth in his words. Plus, a lot of his words were deliberately tampered with and altered to suit the religious approach. Okay, so next question is from Evan, EVON from Greece. Hello, Leonard. Good morning from an Aussie living in Greece. One question, is the ego our thoughts? Well, you guys are coming up with some pretty good questions now. I appreciate that. It's a very interesting question. I would say that the ego's bones, its structure is made up of thought form. And those thought forms go all the way back to the moment of conception, or at least when thought began within you. And it goes into the future, covering all the future thoughts. So I would say the ego exists within a framework of thought. But not all thoughts are from the ego. I'd say a particular kind of thought you can recognize as coming from the ego. Thoughts about protecting yourself, thoughts about defending yourself, thoughts about looking for something that's missing, like love or acceptance, or trying to prove you're good enough, feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness. All of these thoughts are coming from the ego, generated by the ego, but they're also informed by your whole history, particularly the first 4 years. We could say in a way that the ego is really very, very much in alignment with the inner child, because the ego's role is really to protect the child that you once were. And the ego's not really clear that you've grown up. So it's still protecting you. It doesn't want you to feel. It's trying to protect you from feeling the painful feelings from childhood, when you recognize no one was really here, not in the way you needed them to be. And you weren't getting the unconditional love and acceptance that you needed. So you have to be able to distinguish different kinds of thoughts. But let's go to a deeper level. And this is very important. This is why it's so important to become a master of your own mind and ego, a master of your thoughts, so that a thought will never arise without you being aware of it. That would be ideal. A thought would never arise without you intending to think and being aware of what you're thinking about. That would be completely consistent with the awakened state of presence and consciousness. You're present, you're consciously intending to think, you know it takes you into the past and future, the very nature of thought, but you know what you're thinking about. It's appropriate to think, and once you've completed your thoughts, your thinking on a particular topic, it all slows down, it all becomes quiet again. So we have to really be aware of our thoughts. That's why the presence meditation is very well designed to bring more and more awareness to your thoughts. But the point I'm making is this: the mind and ego have absolutely no influence or control over you other than bringing up a thought with an associated feeling. So let's say the ego wants to pull you into the dream and wants to take you out of presence. All that has to do is generate a thought of, say, judgment, for example. Judgment is a thought that will be guaranteed to take you out of presence back into the dream. So the ego will generate a thought of judgment. It will bring up a feeling that's associated with that thought of judgment. So it's a feeling associated with the judgment. And if you believe in what that thought and that feeling is communicating to you, you're caught. You're back in the dream. You're in the mind, in the past or future. It has nothing to do with the present moment. But if you notice the thought arising, judging, you don't reject it and you don't believe in it. You really don't do anything. You're kind of neutral. You're just acknowledging. You're quite loving towards the energy of judgment or any other, blame, revenge, whatever it is, rage. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as the thought, you're aware of the thought and the feeling, and you don't reject it or buy into it, then you're fine. No problem. So we have to become more and more aware of our thoughts, because the ego depends on you not being aware of the thoughts. So it can arise and at an unconscious level catch you. That's what happens to all of us all the time. The thoughts arise at an unconscious level. We unconsciously believe in them because they're all pre-programmed anyway. We unconsciously believe in them, and then we're caught. Okay, so the ego is much more than your thoughts, Evon. But the ego uses thoughts to influence and control you and to keep you in the dream. It has no other way of doing it. So if you don't fall for the ego's tricks, no problem. For example, if the ego generates a thought of resentment, where does that take you? Past, present, or future? The answer is obvious: past. Revenge, past. Blame, past. Guilt, past. Anger, past. All of these thoughts and feelings take you straight back into the past, and at an unconscious level, probably straight back to childhood. So you're really no longer an adult. You're a child in an adult body, reacting as the child within you. Okay, so just become more and more aware of your thoughts in the way that I'm describing. No judgment or rejection of any thought, but not believing in them either. And bringing a friendly, playful energy of love and recognition as you recognize the thought arising. Love, acceptance, compassion also. That's right relationship with your thoughts, right relationship with your ego. These are absolutely essential if you're going to awaken. Okay, I have a couple of extra questions, but I'm going to leave them for another episode. All right, so let's all become present, and given that it's Valentine's Day, let's all open into love. And it's just an opening. It's an opening. It's who you are. You don't have to love one thing in particular. It's not about who or what you love. It's just that you are the energy of love. So if you move your hands, love is moving the hands. If you move your neck and turn away, love is moving. If you feel love for a person or a child right now in this moment, or someone you might meet tomorrow, that's beautiful. But then turn and then bring the love to the tree or the flower or the sky or the bird. Love is like the love that I'm describing, the truth of love, the love that arises from presence. I like to describe it as being like the moon on a cloudless night. The moon shines its light upon all without discrimination or selection. Everything is included as the moon shines its light upon us. Now, the love that I'm describing at that deeper level is exactly like that. If love is looking this way, if I'm looking this way and I'm present, very present, then love is looking this way. It really doesn't have a lot to do with the object of your love. It really doesn't. So let's all open into that dimension of love right now. So let's just become instantly present. You can just be present with me. You can look into my eyes and be present. You can be aware of your body breathing, be present in that way. You can be present with the sound of my voice if I'm speaking. If I'm not speaking, you can be present with any other sound in this moment. You can be present with what you taste, touch, feel in this moment. It is so easy to be present. And there are so many ways to be present and so many things to be present with. And it's entirely up to you what you choose to be present with. But there comes a point where you don't choose, you're just simply present. Wherever you look, presence is looking, love is looking. Wherever you walk, love is walking, presence is walking. A present moment being is walking. And there's really no thought, you're just here, thoroughly present with what is here in the moment with you. That's what it is. Then you'll discover an entirely new dimension of who you are. And I'm sure most of you watching, if not all of you, have experienced what I'm speaking about. But for many people, it's hard to sustain that deeper level of presence. It's so easy to be caught back into the dream. That's why we need step 2 of this teaching, which leads to mastery of the mind and ego, so that eventually you're no longer pulled out of presence back into the dream. You can still think whenever you choose to, whenever it's appropriate, but now your thinking is conscious and intentional. And when you're finished thinking, it all ends and you just come back to presence and silence until the next moment to think becomes appropriate. Now, if there's nothing to think about, then just be present. That's what I say to people. If there's something, if it's appropriate to think, then think. If there's no need to be thinking, then be present. When you're washing the dishes, do you really need to be thinking? When you're going for a walk, do you really need to be thinking? There are so many times in our day, having a shower, lying down in bed or sitting in a chair or going for a walk, whatever it is, there are so many opportunities each day where there's no need to be thinking. Then be present. The problem is we humans have become very, very addicted to thinking. We can't stop. I would say thinking is the greatest addiction, greater than an addiction to heroin, alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, whatever you'd like to think of. We can't stop thinking. But as you remember presence step by step, you gradually become more present, the thoughts will slow down. As you recognize and acknowledge the thoughts and you come into right relationship with the thoughts, no judgment, no rejection, no believing in the thoughts, then the thoughts will slow down. The thoughts need you to believe in them, to sustain their energy. When you stop believing in your thoughts, the whole energy force that's supporting and bringing up these thoughts will start to slow down and reduce, relax, until you find yourself in a state of no thought or silent mind. You're just utterly here with what is here. Okay, folks, so even though I cannot see you in this moment, I can say I love you. How can I say that? Because I am love. How can I not say that? And the truth is, you are love also. If I am awake, you are awake. Everyone is actually already awake. Not everyone is aware of it. But that's a topic for another episode. Okay, folks. So until we meet again next Monday, hopefully everything goes well. And we'll end our meeting there. So blessings to everybody.